Port Noad is the Republic of Congo's deep-water port, and that makes it the country's economic engine. Almost everything the country produces for the world, oil, timber, minerals, flows through this port. And almost everything the country consumes, from food to finished goods to machinery, flows back through these same docks. What's striking is the leverage this single location has. If Port Noad works well, trade flows, people have fuel, businesses can plan. If it doesn't, entire regions slow down. And I don't just mean here in Congo. This port also matters to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, to the Central African Republic, and even landlocked countries further inland. So when we say this is a gateway, we really mean it. Port Noad connects Central Africa to the world. Let's look at a little bit of history and context. This port has history. Port Noad grew up as a colonial outpost with infrastructure designed to move raw materials out of the interior onto ships bound for Europe. The Port Noad Railway was built for exactly that reason, to pull resources from inland forests, rivers and mines and funnel them to the coast. Timber, palm oil, minerals. That was the early story. Fast forward to today, and the story hasn't completely changed. Oil has become the dominant product. Offshore rigs pump crude that is transferred here into tankers and shipped worldwide. Timber still moves, minerals still move, but oil defines Port Noad. Ports often inherit their DNA from history. The decisions that we made 50, 80, 100 years ago about where to lay tracks, where to dredge a harbour, where to build warehouses, those decisions echo today. And that's why Port Noad matters. It's not just what's happening now, it's how the port has always been a funnel between inland Africa and the world economy. But Port Noad isn't just Congo's story, it's a regional story. The Democratic Republic of the Congo has its own port, Matata, on the Congo River. But Matata is shallow, congested and limited in capacity. When Matata can't cope, traffic diverts to Port Noad. The Central African Republic is landlocked. Much of its imports, fuel, manufactured goods, machineries pass through Port Noad, and sometimes even Zambia's copper finds its way here, depending upon, routes and trade flows. That really means a port on this coastline doesn't just serve one country, it serves a cluster of economies. If Port Noad slows down, trucks queue, rail cars get stuck, customers' delays cascade, and suddenly food prices rise in Bangui, or fuel runs short in Kinshasa. This is what we mean by a choke point. Ports like this aren't just infrastructure, they're arteries. And if the artery narrows, the entire body suffers. Okay, let's zoom out. Around 80 to 90% of the world trade by volume moves by sea. And that means every time you order a product online, fill up your car, or even flip on the light switch, there's a good chance a ship and a port were part of the story. Global hubs like Rotterdam, Singapore and Shanghai move millions of containers each year. But regional ports like Port Noad matter just as much because they determine whether smaller, developing or landlocked economies can actually plug into the global system. Ports are not just places where ships dock, they are ecosystems. Customs officers, trucking companies, warehouse operators, IT systems, fuel suppliers, regulators, all of them have to align to move a single container smoothly. And when you step back, you realize that ports are some of the most complex and vulnerable nodes in the entire global supply chain. Now let's go deeper. What challenges do ports face, whether you're Port Noad or Rotterdam? The first really is congestion. A sudden surge in container arrivals or a delay in unloading can back up the entire yard. If trucks can't pick up fast enough, stacks grow and ships wait. We've seen this during COVID, when ports in California had dozens of ships anchored offshore, waiting for days, even weeks. Second is customs and clearance. In many ports, paperwork is still manual, still paper-driven. Delays can add days, sometimes weeks, to a shipment. And in some places, corruption risks do creep in, with extra payments needed to move goods faster. Third is infrastructure limits. A port can, in the end, only move cargo as fast as its inland connections allow. In Port Noad, that's the railway, the trucking routes inland. But rail capacity is limited, roads can be washed out by weather, and maintenance can be patchy. Fourth labor and workforce. Ports rely on skilled labor, crane operators, logistics managers, docker workers. Strike shortages or safety issues can halt operations. What looks like, from the outside, a simple process, a ship docking, containers unloaded, trucks driving away, is in fact thousands of moving parts, each of which has to align. And even if one breaks down, the whole chain slows down. Now let's step back again to the strategic level. Climate change is one of the biggest risks facing ports. Many are built at sea level, with little flood protection. So rising seas and more extreme storms put billions of dollars of infrastructure at risk. Port Noad, like many African ports, has limited resilience against these pressures. Geopolitics is another. Ports can be caught in sanction regimes, in trade disputes, even in piracy zones. The Gulf of Guinea, just north of here, has been a hotspot for piracy in recent years. Competition and investment is a third. Ports compete with each other for traffic, modernizing, dredging, digitizing. This requires billions in investment. For many African ports, that investment comes from outside: China, Europe, multinational lenders. That can bring opportunity, but also dependency. And finally, sustainability pressures. Shipping is under pressure to cut emissions. Ports are being asked to provide shore power, green fuels, and efficiency upgrades. The big question is whether smaller ports with limited resources can keep up. Here in Port Noad, standing by the Atlantic, you can feel the scale of what's at stake. This port is a local gateway. It's a regional choke point, and it's part of the global web that keeps supply chains moving. Ports don't just move goods, they move economies. They connect inland farmers to export markets. They bring manufactured goods to landlocked capitals. They link oil rigs offshore to refinery, half a world away. And as challenges mount, congestion, climate, geopolitics, investment, the question is simple. How do we make sure these gateways remain open, resilient, and efficient? Because what happens here in Port Noad doesn't stay here. It moves the world.